You're with us here on BTTV. We're tracking afternoon trading for you, and let's take a look at how markets are doing today. Bring them up for you on your screen. It's quiet and steady right now. No major action post the weekend and just ahead of a holiday after the kind of highs that we saw late last week. Nifty's up about 0.5% there. Sensex also 0.3%. And we've got 18192 that we're tracking right now on the Nifty, and Sensex at 61146. So it's steady. It's really been, quite a positive overall. The trend that we've been observing over the last week, 10 days, most of the expert commentary coming in has also been fairly bullish and optimistic. Let's take a look at the major gainers in trade today, get a sense of really what's moving as well, and take a look at what some of those trends are. We're watching out for some of those auto names, particularly as sales numbers continue to come in. On the gainers, Adani Enterprises continues its strong up move. Banks have definitely been in the limelight. SBI, a fantastic set of numbers. Britannia, look at the way Britannia is trending today. 8.5% higher on a Britannia. Record high. That's again on a Q2 beat coming in for the company. But, those numbers are phenomenal because we've not seen this kind of a move on Britannia very often. And I'm going to just take a look. Net profit rose 28%. That's to 493 crores in the last quarter. And especially of Good Day biscuits, Tiger biscuits. Looks like the whole country is eating biscuits because Britannia is definitely benefiting from it. Other than that, let's take a look at some of the other movers as well. What else has been seeing some amount of positive traction in today's session. We'll pull up some more of those gainers for you on your screen in just a moment. And otherwise, on the downside as well, we've got a few stocks sitting out, but overall momentum is intact. Eicher Motors, Tata Motors, some of those auto names, BPCL, some of the other names that are definitely buzzing today. Asian Paints on the downside, around about 2.5% or so at this point of time. And some of the others, minor cuts in, let's say, an ITC. Some of the other financials are sitting out a little bit today. Bajaj Finserv, for instance, but just minor ticks there, nothing major to write home about. All right, let me go across to Mr. Solanki, who's joining us on the show today. And Mr. Solanki, what's your view when it comes to the kind of, range that we're looking at on the index, the fact that positive momentum seems to be intact? How do you feel markets are going to fare subsequently over the next few weeks? Is this the impact of earnings and the optimism around what we're seeing this earnings season, or do you feel fundamentally, there are reasons for this kind of momentum to remain?
Yeah, good afternoon. Yeah, definitely. Since we are into earnings season, then earnings are definitely having an impact apart from whatever the global events are driving the market. So be it on positive or negative sides. But this season, what we have seen that the markets have been surprised both on the positives and negatives, especially of positives on banking and financial sector. And on negative side, in terms of if we talk about healthcare and the metal sector. So both these two sectors are pulling the market into either directions. However, currently financial seems to be taking the lead. And as far as if we talk about consensus, then heading into the results, the consensus were not that not that highly optimistic. It were mostly conservative. And what we've seen so far is that the consensus is getting beaten by wider margins on the positive side. So that has been maintaining the momentum which the market has already seen.
Okay, sure. From some of those earning names, let's take a look at Britannia and get your view as well. On the kind of highs that we're seeing on that stock. How much further do you feel we can expect from a Britannia? One of the most resilient performances that we've seen in the last 3 years or so. Lots of new plans as well from the company. Robust top line, and we've got a whole host of buys coming in on Britannia. What's the kind of upside we can expect there?
Definitely, the results have beaten down the estimates, and the stock was not performing at par with its peers, and it was lagging behind. So this earnings seasons it has performed. However, we don't have any coverage, so we can't say about the target upside. But as a consumers business, FMCG business, generally after a steep inflationary rise and when the company passes on the prices to the consumers, the company tends to get a benefit from inflation coming down overall, and that translates into the transfer of that earlier price hikes into the bottom lines of the company, and that seems to be at play in case of Britannia.
Okay, let's talk about those banks now. Let's look at SBI. Phenomenal set of numbers there as well. Let's talk levels on an SBI.
Yes, the results were very, very good, and especially the kind of growth is sustained. Even the estimates have been beaten by more than 30%. Even our estimates were also beaten. Also, if we talk about the growth upside, then currently we have target of around 650 kind of rupees for the SBI, and which definitely looks achievable in near medium term. And the growth momentum should sustain. I think this is just start of the momentum which we have been expecting in the banking sector, especially in this current rate cycle.
Okay. What about some of the other financials? We've got Ujjivan that's also had a pretty decent set of numbers. That stock's also on a go. PSU names as well. A lot of bullish calls coming in on some of those from the financials. Where are you seeing opportunity?
Yes, today is the day of the PSB banks, and especially if we see PSB banks as a basket, then these baskets were trading a very deeper discount. Even a lot of banking names were trading below one times price to book value, and definitely there were concerns historically around their lending book and the kind of NPS they were reporting. But what we have seen in the last few quarters that the public sector banks have tremendously improved their NPA situation and have now started generating revenues, and profitability has increased. Even net interest margin has shown improvement apart from the normal credit growth. Also, one factor you have to keep in mind is that in a rising interest rate cycle, what happens is that as the cost of funds increases for the banks, then it's the PSB public sector banks who has the deeper integration into the rural economy. So the kind of deposit they can garner are very competitive. So they are a bit of ahead in terms of other banking names, you can say. So for them, the cost of funds and the ability to gather funds are really very good. So they tends to lead in the early stages.
Okay, we're going to go through some of those earnings and really what some of the factors that play out for those banks shortly. But the festive season has brought back a lot of cheer in the auto sector with sales figures coming in, all categories in the green, and FADA stating that this festive season has turned out to be the best in the last 4 years. Sales have risen to pre-pandemic levels. Two-wheeler sales have increased by 51% and a shift happening clearly towards EVs. During the 42 days of festive period, total vehicle sales went up 28% year on year with all categories, including two-wheelers, three-wheelers, passenger vehicles, tractors, commercial vehicles, all seeing a significant uptick. Let's go across, in fact, to Chetan on what some of those key indicators are from the sales figures that have come out, this time. Let's go across to Chetan.
Well, Ava, you were absolutely right when you mentioned that automobile retail sales has literally brought smiles on the industry's faces. In fact, a big festive cheer coming up with about 48% growth in October 2022. Well, the passenger vehicle has, of course, been the star of the whole show with 40% growth. Well, the important highlight of the whole news aspect here is, of course, the commentary by the FARA president, Mr. Manish Rai Singhania, who, of course, mentioned that the sentiment was extremely good and positive across all the dealership outlets of all the segments. In fact, if we compare the October 2022 data with the 2019 data, which was a pre-COVID year, except for three-wheelers, which saw a minor decline of about 0.6%. Two-wheelers, passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, tractors saw growth. In fact, during the 42-day festive period, about 20 to 29% growth was also seen. In fact, FADA has also said that the next month, the industry needs to be cautioned because there are a lot of changes that the industry would face. And of course, especially in the two-wheeler space, there could be some headwinds. So clearly, two-wheelers is one segment that really needs to watch out. But yes, it has also seen some growth. There are some green shoots there. But yes, the industry needs to watch out for the next month.
All right, thanks for that, Chetan. All right, just taking a look at some of the other key gainers. But Mrs. Lanki, let's talk about autos and what's catching your eye in that pack.
See, autos, if you see recent phenomenon, what is happening is that user base is shifting towards premiumization. If you see mid-segment and premium cars are getting larger share of the wallet, and as has been seen in the overall sales numbers, So we have seen that four-wheelers outpacing the two-wheelers sales, especially in the normal segment. If you don't talk about the EV, and even in EV space, the traction is getting built up. Also, the duty is also helping out. The metals duty, which was capped earlier, so that has been translating into the user industries like auto. So overall, auto should continue to grow from here onwards as the sales have improving.
All right, that's the view coming in on the auto pack. But do you feel that two-wheelers are going to catch up? Would you go with something like an M&M, which has more of an EV play, or do you think two-wheelers are also going to see growth pick up?
I think EV is acting as a greater disruptor for the two-wheeler space right now rather than the four-wheeler space. So two-wheeler space also due to exports situation not pretty good. So two-wheelers should continue to remain less preferable in comparison to the four-wheeler and other commercial vehicle space.
Okay, what would be your top calls right now, Mr. Solanki, if you had to pick three names that you feel would be a really good buy at current levels?
I think you can also look at an auto ancillaries space. There are a lot of companies in auto ancillary space which can also perform really well. So instead of investing to direct auto names, you can definitely go into auto ancillary space Sona Comstar is there, which you
But
can go.
give me three picks in the overall market, not just autos. Three picks that you would add right now. Markets are looking so good, 61,000 now on the Sensex and beyond. What would you add at these levels, at these valuations?
I think you can add TCS, then Hero Motocorp you can add if you want to have exposure to two-wheelers, which is a better pick here. And then in auto ancillaries, I took Sona Comstar is a really good pick. So these three.
All right, fair enough. Where do you still see some, lag coming in the markets? You mentioned metals when we were first, sort of kicking off this conversation. What do you feel is a clear avoid where you still feel there's going to be some volatility, some amount of cautiousness that one should look at?
See, if you look at Nifty 50 index and analyze over a broad sectoral category, so if you can divide it in three or four sectors, so what we've tried to analyze is that from where the earnings are growing and where the earnings are dragging. So you can clearly see BFSI, including financial banks and insurance, are seeing growing earnings. We have seen a growth of more than 40% in this segment. And in commodities segment, which includes oil and gas and metals, we have seen a drag of around 70 to 75% in the Nifty 50 earnings. Also, if you divide Nifty 50 into domestic and exports segments, then domestic companies which are generating revenues from domestic markets have shown a growth of around 50% kind of in earnings. And the export segment have not shown a good growth, and it have shown growth in just single digits, which is around 7 to 8%. This is I'm talking about the companies which have released the results so far. So clearly the trend is clearly visible. The banking, finance, BFSI segment and domestic segments are driving the growth for the growth in the earnings for the markets, while especially commodities are dragging the earnings, while exports, including IT, is not performing that well and are just showing a single-digit kind of growth. So domestic focus continues to remain strong. The companies which are operating into domestic markets predominantly are going to better perform its other peers. And because of the global situation, the companies operating in the global markets and having exposure to the global economy could continue to remain volatile for the next few quarters as well.
Okay, what's your take on Titan? Still looking a little pricey and not so enthused by numbers this afternoon.
Yes, I think we don't have any target on this stock, but yes, the numbers were broadly, you can say, in line in some segments, and some segments have not performed very well. So, also, the overall, since the festive season is over, then the next trigger is also very far away. So, this stock can be a market performer kind of going on.
All right, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. Let's get back to our focus on banks. Siddharth Zarabi, our managing editor, in conversation with the management at Bank of Baroda, Sanjeev Chadha, the MD and CEO, on their results and other firecracker set of numbers. Listen into this.
Can you take us through the record profits that you have delivered? What has contributed to this kind of performance? And can you give us some granular details?
Yeah. So I think there are normally four engines which can contribute to the performance of a bank. First is, of course, growth. The second is margins. The third is costs. And the fourth is asset quality. I think we are fortunate that all the four factors have come to bear in this particular quarter. Growth has been very robust. Our loan growth has been of the order of 19%. Within that, retail has grown by about 28%. But as a general proposition, when you grow aggressively, margins do tend to get compressed. But in this quarter, we have seen margins expand also because we have been keeping a tight discipline in terms of deposit costs in particular. The third part is costs. I think a number of banks, again, have had costs also increase in tandem. But for us, the increase in business has not been accompanied by either an increase in manpower or the increase in branches and the physical build. Instead, it has been enabled by digitalization. BoB World, which we launched about a year back, has been an outstanding success. Today, we have nearly 25 million customers on BoB World. So therefore, a lot of growth is coming through digital, where the marginal costs are lower. And last, and of course, the most important is that we have had a benign corporate credit cycle for the past few years. Even when COVID was with us, corporate credit costs were coming down and were outweighing the challenges in MSME and retail. Now that when COVID is behind us, you have both the improvement in the corporate credit cycle as also, again, a far better environment when it comes to MSME and retail loans. So I think all these four factors have come together to make sure that the results are fairly decent in this particular quarter for us.
All right, let's wind down to close now. We've had a pretty interesting day of trade. It was, strong momentum, of course, as you can see there on your screen. Sensex well above 61,000. Nifty also holding fort, up a solid 0.5% today. It's really the earnings that were in focus, though. Look at the banking numbers. Just heard from the BoB management, SBI as well, loan growth. Interest income, lower provisions, it's all clocking in for some of these majors. We had a Jivan Financial also that reported. Britannia was clearly the star of the day. The way that stock has moved today, unbelievable. I haven't seen that move in Britannia in a long time. It's been 3 years since we've seen that kind of a quarterly performance, and God knows how long since we've seen that kind of a move on the stock. So, and clearly this was stock specific. It wasn't to do with the sectoral trend. It was purely on the back of those incredible earnings coming in from Britannia. The Bank Nifty was definitely on a roll today. SBI 3.5% higher on earnings. Other than that, we also saw numbers coming in on Marico, Titan, which weren't really enthusing the market as much. The other key names, though, in trade, Bank of Baroda, 9.5% higher, almost 10%. And you just heard from the management as well on those set of numbers. So those were really the stars of today's session. Other than that, we still saw a pretty solid day in terms of the advanced decline ratio, even in terms of the kind of action we saw across auto names, across a whole host of other counters from the broader markets as well. NIIT was up about 12%, JM Financial 10% coming in there. We had names like a Finolex, a GE Shipping continuing its up move today. JK Lakshmi Cement was up 5-6%, for instance. Amaraja Batteries was up 5%. Supreme Industries, another one there. A whole host of names, Apollo Tires. So the ancillaries were definitely moving. Prestige Estates was also up from the Realty Pack. That was one that stood out. And the list kind of goes on. LIC Housing Finance, we had UTI AMC up 3%, for example. Indian Hotels another 2-3%, which stands out to me because some of those names have been seeing consistent buying coming in now over the last few sessions. FSN e-commerce also held out, waiting to see whether this will be a big week for some of those tech names, where your book period is coming to a close. So a lot of action that continues. We've got IPO action that continues as well. So it continues to be fairly dynamic and fairly upbeat when it comes to trade on the exchange. While overall we have seen turnover perhaps a little slower, FI selling a little higher, domestic momentum and optimism continues to be very much intact. Earnings season is in full throes, and we'll continue to track how this pans out over the rest of the week. Truncated week at that. Tomorrow is a trading holiday, so we'll wait and see how things resume on Wednesday. Thanks for watching. How? Log on to Business Today TV.